Our nation's capital is honoring Senator John McCain today. He will lie in state there after being honored in his home state of Arizona. More than 3,000 people gathered in Phoenix yesterday to celebrate McCain's life. Speakers included former Vice President Joe Biden and Arizona Cardinals wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald. Senator McCain's final resting place will be in Washington. CBS News chief congressional correspondent Nancy Cordes was there.
As the plane touched down at Andrews Air Force Base, Defense Secretary James Mattis was there to greet his old friend John McCain and his family. It was McCain's final journey from Arizona, where thousands gathered Thursday at the North Phoenix Baptist Church to pay their respects.
I always thought of John as a brother. We had a hell of a lot of family fights.
Grant Woods described the cocky would-be congressman who hired him to be his chief of staff in 1983.
On my first day at 7 a.m., John McCain picked me up at my house. It was at the same time just really a lot of fun and also quite terrifying because of his ridiculously bad driving.
McCain's stubborn streak led to some unorthodox political moves.
He says, I want you to co-chair my campaign. I said, well, John, you know I'm a Democrat.
McCain even shared his straight talk with the Arizona Cardinals star receiver.
Sometimes it was just a visit to our practices. Other times it was him texting and saying, oh, you need to pick it up this Sunday.
A reminder, former Vice President Biden said in these polarized times, to put people before politics.
But were he part company with you, if you lack the basic values of decency, respect, knowing that this project is bigger than yourself.
I did it my way.
Well, Nancy Cordes joins me now from Capitol Hill. Nancy, can you tell us more about the message John McCain's friends had for mourners yesterday as they celebrated his life in Phoenix? Certainly there were a lot of laughs as well as tears.
Right. I think there were sort of two main thrusts to their very touching remarks. One was they wanted to convey not just John McCain, the military hero, the senator, the presidential candidate, but John McCain, the man. I mean, here's someone who was quite irreverent, who loved a good joke, sometimes had a subversive sense of humor, and was very strong-willed. You heard Grant Woods talking about the fact that the candidate picked him up instead of the other way around, and when Woods offered to drive, he said, no, I'm going to be driving. And Woods said, well, I can get in the back if you want, and in a joking manner. And they hit it off from that moment. But McCain, even though he didn't know the way, even though he was a terrible driver, he insisted on being in that driver's seat. The other theme that you heard from speaker after speaker at the memorial service was that McCain struck up what might seem on the surface to be unlikely friendships with people who didn't share his political views, didn't share his background, but that's because this is a person for whom character, values, humor was more important than politics, and that is something that we could all stand to remember right now, which is that there's a lot more that unifies us than the color of our skin or our political persuasion.
Right. He was only the third person, I believe, in Phoenix to lie in state, and now he's going to be lying in state at the Capitol building under the rotunda. How significant is this?
It's a tremendous honor. There are only 35 people who have received that honor since the 1860s, and it is the ultimate honor for someone who loved this institution so much. I mean, we all know people who love their jobs, who are defined by their jobs, but John McCain really lived and breathed this job to the extent that he was determined to come back here even after he was diagnosed, even after he had begun to receive cancer treatment, he had surgery, he was wheelchair bound, but he still kept coming back to the Capitol, voting in the Senate. And in fact, at the time, we were told by his aides, actually the family believes that he'll do better if he's coming back to work every day, because being in the Senate just gives him so much life and vitality. He would just be bored if he were to go back home to Arizona before it's absolutely necessary. He loves to be in the U.S. Capitol. He served here, of course, for almost 36 years. So it is a huge honor. It is something that he himself really would have appreciated. And as we saw when he was lying in state in Arizona, there were something like 12 to 15,000 people who lined up to walk through the rotunda of that Capitol and pay their respects. And we'll see something very similar here at the U.S. Capitol.
So today, those who worked with him on Capitol Hill will be given the opportunity to say goodbye. Walk us through what's going to be happening throughout the weekend for Senator McCain.
Well, the motorcade will pull up directly behind us here at the east front of the Capitol, and his casket will be carried inside by a military honor guard, and there will be a brief wreath-laying ceremony attended by the leaders of the House and Senate, other members of Congress, Senator McCain's family, the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, and notably John McCain's mother, Roberta, who didn't make it to Arizona in part because she is 106 years old. So we will be able to see her for the first time today, and she was sort of ever present out on the campaign trail and in his political life. So it'll be great to see her here at the U.S. Capitol today. After that ceremony, the doors will be opened to the public at 1 o'clock Eastern time, and he will lie in state here throughout the day. Then in the morning, a very touching ceremony, a brief ceremony. As the casket is taken to the National Cathedral, it will make a stop at the Vietnam War Memorial. John McCain, of course, a prisoner of war in Vietnam for 5.5 years. He dedicated his life thereafter to the military, to foreign affairs, never forgot the Vietnamese people, and was really considered an ally in the Vietnamese American community. So he will pause there, and Cindy McCain will get out, and there will be a brief moment for him to say goodbye to the Vietnam Memorial before the casket is taken to the National Cathedral here in Washington, D.C. for a ceremony where, as you know, the two former presidents, George W. Bush and Barack Obama, have been asked to eulogize the former senator. Then on Sunday, John McCain will be buried at his beloved U.S. Naval Academy, where he had requested that he be laid to rest near the grave of a longtime friend.
All right. Well, thank you, Nancy Cordes.
You're welcome.